What if everything you thought you knew about ancient history was missing entire continents? Forget the pyramids for a moment. Imagine a world of gold-paved cities, mighty warrior queens, astronomers, architects and philosophers, all thriving in empires that most history books barely mention, stories not buried in sand but buried in silence. Today, we're unearthing those forgotten truths. The hidden kingdoms of Africa are rising. For centuries, Africa has been portrayed as a so-called dark continent, void of civilization, culture, or contribution. That narrative was no accident. It was a distortion, designed to erase Africa's true legacy. In reality, Africa is home to some of the most powerful and advanced civilizations the world has ever seen, predating many of the Western empires we're taught to revere. Today, we challenge that narrative, and we begin where most history classes never dare to go. Our journey begins in the northeast, along the fertile banks of the Nile, in a land the ancient Egyptians called Nubia. Here, the formidable kingdom of Kush flourished for over 1,000 years. This was a civilization built on immense wealth, controlling rich deposits of gold and serving as a crucial corridor for ivory, ebony, and incense flowing from the heart of Africa. But its true power wasn't just in its resources, it was in its leadership. Kush was a land of powerful queens, the Kandakes, who ruled with a combination of divine authority, political wisdom, and military force. These were not mere consorts. They were absolute monarchs, queen mothers who inherited power and commanded armies. They were revered as living goddesses and brilliant strategists. These warrior queens led their soldiers into battle and skillfully negotiated treaties. In the 1st century BC, the Kandake Amanirenas famously went to war against the Roman Empire, the superpower of the age. After years of fighting, she forced the Romans to the negotiating table and secured a peace treaty that favored her kingdom, a testament to her unyielding resolve. The Kandakes ruled for centuries, long before the famous Cleopatra was even born, presiding over a unique culture that blended Egyptian traditions with its own distinct identity, leaving behind hundreds of steep-sided pyramids at their capital, Meroe. Moving south, we encounter the breathtaking and mysterious ruins of Great Zimbabwe. At its peak in the 14th century, this was a bustling metropolis, home to an estimated 20,000 people. When European explorers first saw these magnificent structures, they refused to believe they were of African origin, so great was their scale and sophistication. The city is an architectural marvel. Massive stone towers and imposing walls were constructed from granite blocks, expertly cut and fitted together with perfect geometry, all without a single drop of mortar. The iconic conical tower, standing within the great enclosure, remains an enigma. Its purpose, whether a granary, a treasury, or a symbol of royal power, still debated by historians. This inland empire's immense wealth was built on cattle, and most importantly, gold. Its mines fueled vast and complex trade networks that stretched across the Indian Ocean. Archaeologists have unearthed artifacts that tell a story of a globally connected city, revealing Chinese porcelain, Persian pottery, and glass beads from India, all traded for Zimbabwe's precious gold and ivory. Further east, in the highlands of modern-day Ethiopia and Eritrea, the kingdom of Aksum rose to prominence. A civilization of incredible ambition, they carved and erected colossal granite obelisks, or stelae, as grave markers for their rulers. Monolithic feats of engineering, some soaring over 100 feet high. Aksum was one of the first civilizations in Africa to mint its own coins, a clear sign of its economic power and sovereignty. They also developed their own written script, Ge'ez, which is still used in Ethiopia's liturgical language today. All this was happening while much of Europe was still emerging from the Iron Age, a period often mistakenly called the Dark Ages. In a move that would shape the region's destiny, King Ezana converted to Christianity in the 4th century, making Aksum one of the very first Christian kingdoms in the world. This faith became central to its identity and forged a lasting cultural and religious heritage. Aksum was no isolated outpost, it was a global superpower. Its strategic location on the Red Sea coast made it a vital link in the trade between the Roman Empire and the distant lands of India and Arabia. A Persian prophet of the time named it one of the 4 greatest powers in the world, alongside Rome, China, and Persia. From its ports, ships laden with frankincense, myrrh, and ivory sailed the seas, returning with silk, spices, wine, and olive oil. Aksum was a cosmopolitan crossroads of cultures, ideas, and commerce, a true giant of the ancient world. As our journey continues westward, we cross the vast Sahara, not a barrier but a vibrant sea of sand, crisscrossed by ancient trade routes. These were the arteries of commerce that fed the heart of one of history's most legendary states, the Golden Empire of Mali. Its wealth was drawn from the prolific goldfields of Bambouk and Bor, mines so rich they seemed mythical. At its zenith, under the rule of Mansa Musa, Mali controlled nearly half the old world's gold, making him not just an emperor but the wealthiest individual in all of human history. In 1324, Mansa Musa embarked on his Hajj, a pilgrimage to Mecca, but this was no ordinary journey. It was a procession of unprecedented scale, a moving city of 60,000 people, with 100 camels each carrying hundreds of pounds of pure gold dust. When his caravan passed through Cairo, he spent and gave away so much gold that he single-handedly destabilized the entire Mediterranean economy. The value of gold plummeted, and it took the region over a decade to recover. Such was the power of Mali. But Mali's true treasure wasn't just its gold, it was a profound commitment to knowledge. The legendary city of Timbuktu was the empire's intellectual and spiritual heart. Home to the great Sankore University, it was a magnet for scholars, poets, and artists from across Africa and the Middle East. Here, in the bustling markets, books and manuscripts were the most prized commodities, often fetching a higher price than salt or even gold. Its vast libraries housed hundreds of thousands of texts, math, medicine, astronomy, philosophy, all meticulously documented in elegant Arabic script, creating an unparalleled archive of human thought, right in the heart of West Africa. As Mali's influence waned, a new power rose from its former territories, forging an even larger state, the Songhai Empire. Under the brilliant military strategist Sunni Ali, Songhai expanded rapidly, using a powerful army and a fleet of war canoes to control the vital Niger River. His successor, Askia the Great, was a reformer. He centralized the vast empire, creating a professional bureaucracy, standardizing trade, and establishing a cabinet of ministers for agriculture, finance, and justice. This combination of military dominance and administrative genius made Songhai a powerhouse of law, trade, and culture. Further south, the Kingdom of Benin was renowned for its extraordinary art and architecture. Its capital, Benin City, was a marvel of urban design, protected by a complex system of walls and moats, one of the largest man-made structures in the world. But Benin's most famous legacy is its art. The kingdom's artisans perfected the lost wax casting technique to create thousands of intricate bronze sculptures. These weren't just decorations, they were historical documents, a royal archive in metal. When European traders first encountered these masterpieces, their precision was so astonishing they refused to believe they could be of African origin. They were wrong. The Benin bronzes were a uniquely African achievement, a legacy that was tragically looted during a British invasion in 1897, but whose story and significance endure. They were African then, and they are African now. But Africa's greatness doesn't stop with the monuments of the north. Across the vast expanse of the continent, a rich tapestry of powerful kingdoms and untold stories has been waiting in the shadows of history, ready to be illuminated. These are civilizations whose innovations and legacies are just as profound. Let's travel south to modern-day South Africa. Here, over 1,000 years ago, the kingdom of Mapungubwe emerged as southern Africa's very first state. This was a highly sophisticated society with a clear social hierarchy. The royal class lived in seclusion atop Mapungubwe Hill, a sacred and strategic natural fortress, looking down upon the bustling settlement of commoners below. Their immense wealth was built on a vast international trade network, exchanging precious local gold and ivory for exotic glass beads from India and fine ceramics from China. The ultimate symbol of their power and artistry is a small but breathtaking golden rhinoceros, discovered in a royal grave. Crafted from delicate gold foil tacked onto a wooden core, this mesmerizing artifact, along with a golden scepter and bowl, speaks to a culture rich in ritual, status, and incredible craftsmanship that predates Great Zimbabwe. Now, journey to Central Africa, where the mighty Kingdom of Congo flourished from the 14th century. At its heart was a highly centralized and structured government led by the Manikongo. This powerful king presided over an intricate administration of provinces and a sophisticated taxation system using Nzimbu shells as currency. In the late 15th century, a new chapter began with the arrival of Portuguese ships, initiating one of history's most significant and complex early encounters between an African kingdom and a European power. The Congo court engaged in robust diplomacy, exchanged ambassadors with Portugal, and its king, Nzinga Nkuwu, even converted to Christianity, becoming João I. This complex relationship was initially one of mutual curiosity, but it also tragically foreshadowed the devastating era of the transatlantic slave trade that would later engulf and ultimately undermine the kingdom. And in West Africa, in what is now Benin, the formidable kingdom of Dahomey rose to prominence, defended by an army that struck fear into all its enemies. At the very forefront were the elite, all-female warriors the Fon people called the Agoji, fierce, fearless, legendary. They were no mere militia, they were a formal, institutionalized military unit, a central pillar of the kingdom's power. Undergoing brutal physical and psychological training from a young age to master hand-to-hand combat and weaponry, they were sworn to celibacy and considered wives of the king, giving them immense status and influence. Their existence shattered every European notion of gender and warfare. They inspired the fictional Dora Milaje in Marvel's. But their real story, as protectors of their king and kingdom against rival states and encroaching French colonialists, is infinitely more complex and powerful. These were not footnotes in history. They were entire chapters, ripped out. The legacy of these kingdoms lives on, in the languages still spoken, in the art, music, architecture, and spiritual systems, in the pride of a continent reclaiming its truth. Modern African nations carry the DNA of these empires. From Nigeria to Ethiopia, from Mali to South Africa, they are not relics, they are ancestors, whose echoes still shape the present, and they are finally being heard. It's time to rewrite the narrative, to move beyond conquest, colonization, and cliché. It's time to recognize Africa, not as a passive backdrop, but as a stage of innovation, complexity, and resilience. So next time someone asks about ancient civilizations, don't just say Rome or Greece or Egypt, say Mali, say Aksum, say Benin, say Kush. The kingdoms were never lost, they were hidden. But now, we see them.